Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second part of the fifth knowledge lecture from the Neophyte grade of the Golden Dawn, as delivered to the Order of the Rose Cross for their Neophyte proficiency. This lecture is going to deal with the second triangle within the Kabbalah Tree of Life, that being what they call, one of the names anyhow, is the moral triangle. And it is the triangle with which I associate with the second degree of Freemasonry, as it houses the middle chamber. So there are three Sephira we're going to get through. And again, if you're here for proficiency's sake, you just need to understand what's being presented to you on the slides. Your goal is to memorize the 10 Sephiroth, their names, and their basic meanings and some things that represent them. You will be building on these in later degrees, but that should be where your initial focus is at this time. So let's go ahead and get started with Sephiroth number 4, that being Chesed. So on the lightning bolt pattern, or the flaming sword, as it can be called, we are descending downward in creation. And that is how these Sephiroth are numbered. So we're going down. So we've gone 1, 2, 3. Now we're getting ready to jump the abyss to number 4. So we're here as number 4. Chesed sits on the Pillar of Mercy. And the Pillar of Mercy gets its name from Chesed itself, because Chesed means mercy. I have seen this pillar named other things as well. This pillar also goes by the name of Beauty, and it also goes by the name of Jockin. And if you're looking at certain pictures of the pillars, such as, for example, in the Rider-Waite Tarot, you will see B and J on the pillars. That represents Boaz and Jockin. So these pillars have different names, and I just like to make you aware of those. So Chesed translates to mercy, and its keyword is the builder. Its Yetziratic title is the receptive intelligence, and the planet that rules is Jupiter. So remember, Bina is Saturn, Chesed is Jupiter. Its symbols are the pyramid, the square, the orb, the equal-armed cross, which I call the Templar cross, the crook, and the scepter. Here's its Hebrew representation. And this, of any of the Sephiroth, has an alternate name. This one can also be seen as Gedula. In fact, when I first learned Kabbalah, it was called Gedula, the teachings that I had been exposed to, and then it got changed to Chesed. So I don't, as of right now, I'm not sure of why those change back and forth. In Hermetic Golden Dawn, I normally see it as Chesed, but I have seen it also as Gedula. Gedula means glory or greatness. And an interesting trivia tidbit for you. When you do the Kabbalistic cross, which the Golden Dawn teaches, which is part of the Neophyte grade, by the way, so that is one other thing you're going to have to know, you are essentially saying the Lord's Prayer. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory forever. Amen. Well, for thine is the kingdom, Keter, the power, that's Gebura, and the glory, well, that's Gedula. That's what Gedula stands for, glory. So just something to keep in mind as an interesting little side piece of trivia. All right, so Mathers has this to say on Chesed. Chesed is the fourth Sephira, and its name means mercy. This is the first sphere below the abyss, the second Sephira on the right-hand pillar. It is therefore the first sphere of our physical nature, our physical universe. In Chesed can be found the structural support of all that is manifested. Chesed receives the current of divine energy, which has been modified and disciplined by Mother Superior, Bina, and gives it another influx of energy. This begins the process of materializing the abstract energies of the supernals, Kether, Hokmah, and Bina. Chesed is the matrix upon which the archetype ideas will later be built into a tangible form. The fourth Sephira is also the first sphere, thus far, that may be comprehended by the human mind, because it is the solidification of the abstract ideas formulated by the three supernals. The patterns of the tree of life repeat themselves after the initial three spheres are formed. Therefore, Chesed is the same type of energy as Chokmah, but on a lower, more manifest level. While Chokmah might be likened to an all-knowing, all-powerful father, Chesed is the benevolent, loving, and protective father who is unselfish and unforgiving. However, the functions of Chesed are essentially feminine, the aptitude for form building and materialization. This is because, for the first time on the tree, the idea of manifestation below the abyss is beginning to coagulate, and the concepts of masculine and feminine, positive and negative, are here beginning to blend together as the process of evolution down the tree continues. But it must be remembered that Chesed is a water potency and that it is the daughter of Chokmah and Binah. As such, Chesed shares some similarities with Tifereth, the offspring of Chesed and Geburah. The Sefer Yetzirah states the fourth path is named the cohesive or receptacle intelligence, and it is so called because it contains all of the holy powers, and from it emanate all of the spiritual virtues with the most exalted essences. They emanate one from the other by the power of the primordial emanation, the highest crown, Kether. The term cohesive again refers to Chesed's capacity to gather together all the unmanifested energies, or the holy powers, it has received from the supernals across the expanse of the abyss. Again, these powers or emanations are not in any way diminished as they descend the tree and continue on the path of materialization. Another image you will see of Chesed is of the king ruling on his throne with his scepter. And he is opposed by Geburah, which we're about to see, Geburah being the king in his chariot with his spear. So these both represent a king, one in its merciful capacity and one in its wrathful capacity. So let's go ahead and move on to Sfiroth number 5, Geburah. And Geburah means severity, can also mean strength. And the pillar that it resides upon, as I said, all these pillars have different names. This is the pillar of severity, or the pillar of strength, or Boaz. They have all the different names. There's other names as well, but those are the three names that you'll see quite a bit. And again, you'll see the black pillar with a B on it. Its key word is energy, and its Yetziric title is the radical intelligence. Its physical representation is Mars, and its symbols are the pentagon, the Tudor rose, the sword, the spear, and the scourge. And here is its name as it would appear in Hebrew. Geburah is one of the more controversial Sfiroth, because some people may ask, what does this have anything to do with the tree of life? Isn't that evil? That's aggression, ruthless aggression, toxic masculinity, all of the words. Well, anything in its excess is bad. Mercy in its excess is weakness. Mercy in its excess allows for rot to build and grow, just as severity in its extremes brings upon tyranny. So the correct answer in that case is no. There's nothing wrong with Geburah being on the tree of life. In fact, it is necessary. There are times where we have to exercise destructive energy or masculine energy to purge away things. Think about if you have cancer. You need to excise the disease from your body. That's an example of Geburah. Let's see what Mathers has to say here. The fifth Sephirah, positioned below Binah on the left-hand pillar, is called Geburah, which translates to strength or severity. Other titles given to this sphere are justice and fear. Geburah is without a doubt the least understood and most feared Sephirah on the tree. However, the natural order of the universe depends upon the concept of opposites in balance. Thus, the benevolence, mercy, and form building of Chesed are now equilibrated by the harsh, destructive actions of the fifth sphere. Geburah's duty is to break down the form issued by Chesed and apply discipline in the manner of purging fire. Any energy that makes its way down the tree of life into the material world must be tested and tempered by the opposites of mercy and severity. It must be cleansed in the fires of Geburah. All impurities must be burned away, just as the blade of a strong sword must be tested by the fire of the metalsmith's furnace. Only in this way can the energy be fashioned as a sturdy vehicle for manifestation. Geburah is the strong arm of God, commanding respect and burning away all that is useless or outmoded. The harsh, destructive action of this sphere is absolutely vital to further evolution. The energy of Geburah is not an evil force unless its essence spills over from justice to cruelty. Geburah is essentially a consolatory power, which restricts the merciful love of Chesed. Without the powerful force of Geburah, the mercies of Chesed would deteriorate into frivolity and weakness. Just as Chesed is the same energy as Chokmah on a lower level, Geburah is the lower form of Bina, the sphere which restricts and disciplines. However, Geburah displays fire or masculine potency as opposed to Bina's watery nature. On the other hand, some sources insist that Geburah is primarily a feminine energy. It is only recently in our culture that the strength and determination of the feminine side are receiving notice and appreciation. Nothing is more aggressive and ferocious than a mother defending her child. The same is true of Geburah, which aggressively deals with anything that corrupts the divine current of energy from Kether. Again, at this level on the tree, the mixture of masculine and feminine traits in each sphere is becoming more and more evident. Geburah seems much more harsh and restrictive than Bina, simply because it is below the abyss, and its effects are more easily seen by us in the manifest universe. According to the Sefer Yetzirah, the fifth path is called the radical intelligence because it resembles the unity, uniting itself to Bina, or intelligence, which emanates from the primordial depths of wisdom, or Chokmah. The word radical here implies basic or fundamental. Here the text tells us that Geburah, the radical intelligence, resembles unity, one of the titles of Kether. Geburah's dynamic action overflowing into the world of form bears a close relationship to the overflowing force of Kether, which is the source of all manifestation. In addition, unity also implies the uniting of a new and distinct polarity in the spheres of Chesed and Geburah. Geburah unites itself with Bina because it is the same restrictive feminine energy of Bina on the lower, more manifest level. All right, so that's Spheroth number 5. Now it will descend to the middle chamber, which on the Tree of Life sits in the center of our heart, and that is Tifereth. Tifereth, which I also refer to as the middle chamber, means beauty. Its key word is the mediator. Its Yetziric title is the mediating intelligence. Its physical representation is the sun. And its symbols are the cavalry cross, which is here to the left, the rose cross, which is up here, the truncated pyramid, which is right here, a cube, or the Hebrew letter Vav. And here is Tifereth in its Hebrew form. So all of these symbols compose Tifereth. Now the thing with the cavalry cross is the cavalry cross and the cube are very similar to each other. In fact, if you unfold the geometry of a cube, you get the cavalry cross. Something to think about. Let's hear what Mathers has to say about Tifereth and wrap up this portion of the lecture. The sixth Sephira is called Tifereth, or beauty. Tifereth lies at the very center of the Tree of Life on the middle pillar, the column of equilibrium, also known as the pillar of wisdom or mildness. Again, like all of the other pillars, it has many different names, and receives the powers of all of the other Sephiroth. This sphere strikes the harmony between the mercy of Chesed and the severity of Geburah. Therefore, it contains the perfect balance of both benevolence and aggressive energies. Because of its position on the tree in line with Kether, Tifereth mirrors much of the pureness of the crown, but on a deeper, more manifest level. By the union of mercy and justice, beauty is obtained. The Sefer Yetzirah states the sixth path is called the mediating intelligence because in it are multiplied the influxes of the emanations, for it causes that influences to flow into all of the reservoirs of the blessing, with which these themselves are united. This again refers to Tifereth's position on the central pillar, mediating between the pillar of mercy and severity. As a mediator, Tifereth is also seen as the connecting link between the higher and lower states of the being, the higher self and the lower self. This sphere is a two-way switch which both receives the influxes of the emanations from above and causes that influence to flow into all the reservoirs of the blessings. Tifereth's neutral position on the central pillar, along with its androgynous nature, allows the influences to combine, multiply, and increase. It is the outward manifestation of the higher and subtler Sephiroth, as well as the spiritual principle behind the lower and more manifest spheres. Until this point, we have described each Sephira in abstract terms of force and form, macrocosmic archetypes, which are somewhat remote from us. But in Tifereth, this changes, because the sixth Sephira lies well within the range of human experience. The rest of the spheres from Tifereth on down can be increasingly described by the effects they have on human consciousness, then by polarity alone, since the four lowest Sephiroth are symbolic of the lower self or personality, at least on the level of the microcosm and Malkuth of Asiya. The center of the tree of life is the place of the reconciler or redeemer. God forms of this energy include Christ, Buddha, and Osiris. This is because Tifereth mediates between the Godhead and Kether and the rest of the material universe. The sixth sphere is a link or point in transition. It reconciles that which is above to that which is below. Tifereth intercedes between these different levels of being. The sixth sphere is essentially a mystical sphere. The spiritual experience that takes place in Tifereth is the vision of the harmony of things. This is due to the fact that the higher self, or holy guardian angel, of every individual sits in Tifereth, referring again to Tifereth as the mirror of Kether, the divine self. The goal of all spiritual experience is the search for the light, which is obtained by devotion to the great work. Tifereth is the sphere of illumination and of healing. This is why the so-called Christ consciousness is placed here. All right. Thank you guys for sitting through that. That was the moral triangle, Chesed, Geburah, and Tifereth. I will note, so again, these were written in the late 19th century. You're not going to get, if you're new to Kabbalah, you're not going to understand a lot of what was just said. But I think that's true in a lot of esoteric orders. When you sit through lectures, you may not quite grasp what everything is being said. The key parts of understanding these lectures that you, again, need to focus on is you need to understand what the word, what it is. So if I say Sephiroth 6, you go Tifereth. It means beauty. Its key word is the mediator. It's represented by the sun. And those are the important things, because what you're going to do is what you want to be doing is starting to assess attributes of your day-to-day living to various Sephiroth in the Tree of Life. And from that, you can start reflecting on where your imbalances may lay. Because our goal with Kabbalah is one of the most important aspects of Western esotericism, in my opinion, because Kabbalah lays down a map for us to follow to get onto that middle pillar, the pillar of wisdom, the pillar of mildness, all the names for it. It is the pillar of equilibrium. It is the most important. And to do that, this is a tool that can be used to see where you're out of whack, where you're out of line, and to start bringing your own internal geometry into a more cognizant shape. So don't worry about it if you're not getting all of the lectures right now. There's much more to come and much more to discuss. Focus on what's important. Take the rest in as you can. That's my recommendation to you. Thank you for watching. Our next knowledge lecture will be to wrap this up with the remaining 4 Spheroth, which we'll be discussing, which essentially correlate to the first degree of Masonry. And then all to Masonry. Not only the first degree of Masonry, but all of Freemasonry can be attributed to the astral triangle, as it's called, and Malkuth, which is the lowest of the emanations. Until then, stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.